Happy Valentine's to you, my viewer at home, and welcome yet again to this beautiful and special episode of Dinner Guide. Today we are going to be focusing on the day of love, the Valentine's Day, the most important day for those of you who love to commemorate this day with your loved ones. And I'm definitely going to bring something on the table today that will just really put that creme de la creme on that particular special event that you're planning for you or your loved one at home. Today we are going to be making a very simple dessert. I'm going to show you how to make a very simple and humble apple pie, and I'll start off by introducing my ingredients to my right. So from the front I've got 1 whole egg, a bit of some vanilla essence. I also have some nutmeg and some cinnamon powder. I also have some butter, a bit of some strawberries there which we'll be using to decorate, a bit of some sugar, some beautiful puff pastry there, and last but not least some beautiful 3 Granny Smith apples. So we're gonna take a short commercial break now, allow you to sit down, unwind and relax, and when we come back from the break, we're gonna dive in and make this particular dish a memorable experience for you all. So see you after the short break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're just about to start off this very simple and easy dessert today, and I hope you're all going to have some fun with me today. So I'm going to first of all start by coring my apples and peeling them. So I'm just going to be using a small knife for that. All you need to do at this stage is start by peeling your apple. Of course, making sure to go really slowly as to enable you not to waste any of that apple flesh. And one particular thing I like about this beautiful dessert, personally, I've always enjoyed an apple pie, I can be frank with you, and one particular beautiful trait about an apple pie is it just really commemorates most seasons. It's one of the most nicest desserts to have, and with just a little bit of ice cream on the side, you can actually really enjoy your Valentine's this particular year if you go with this particular option. There are also some very good seasonal desserts that you could all try out as well. There's so many other options online. You can actually just have a look, try anything that really makes your day. But I'm particularly using this particular recipe today because of the advantage that the apples are really much in season at this time. Strawberries are also in season at this time. And they're definitely something that will just give that Valentine celebration that you and your loved one are planning a very good memory for both of you. So we're just going to continue to peel all the way to the last piece, and we're going to proceed to cook this on some heat with a bit of sugar and a bit of butter, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. So just continue to peel your apples all the way. And of course, something also to remember, always try and really select some very good apples to make your dessert. One good particular checkpoint for a good apple is it should be nice and firm. It should actually have some very good fresh characteristics. It should smell like an apple and shouldn't have any blisters or any dents or any marks on the sides. Now we're just going to proceed to cut those into some half moon shapes. I'm just going to chop the apple as we did for the first one for all 3 pieces. Just continue to chop all your slices very thinly. And then proceed to do the same for that last piece. Of course, taking enough precaution in making sure that you don't actually have any of those apple seeds or those inner cores in your apple, of course, because they're actually not, you can actually really have quite a disappointment having to chew on a seed, especially when trying to enjoy a dessert. So always be sure to make sure that you don't have any of your seeds incorporating itself in your mixture. Right, and once your apples are now nicely chopped, we're going to start off by cooking them in some butter and sugar. So I'll start off by warming the pan. Next up, we'll add some butter, about 2 tablespoons. Basically, just allow that to melt down. You can just move your apples into a bowl. Right, so very, very important at this stage also to remember to start to reheat your oven. Remember, this is a very, very quick and easy process. We already have our puff pastry ready to go. It's only a matter of just combining these quick ingredients and then throwing it straight in the oven. And for that, I have this particular beautiful 3 dishes that I'm going to be using today. And basically, one thing you also need to remember when selecting dishes to throw in your oven, make sure first of all that they're oven proof, that they're not going to break once you throw them in there. And first of all, most importantly, make sure that it is one particular one that you're very, very certain of. So we're going to be just doing that in these 3 containers. And now we're just going to proceed to add our sugar to the pan and our apples. Just going to slice this one last piece. And all you want to do now is just caramelize your apples. I'm cooking this at very, very high heat, but very important that you actually pay quite close attention to your pan, otherwise you could actually overcook your apples or over brown them for that matter. So very important to continue mixing as you proceed. And now to that, we're going to add our vanilla essence for a bit of flavor. Also going to add our nutmeg. And last but not least, our cinnamon powder. You can actually use a cinnamon stick as well, but always remember to take it out before incorporating your apples into your dishes for baking. Remember, it is an unpleasant feeling to actually bite into a raw stick of cinnamon. I'm just going to continue cooking those until they're just nicely browned. And I'm just going to start off also by making some very, very simple wedges of strawberries, which we're going to actually save for much later on. I'm just going to add those into a bowl. Just start by taking off the root end and slice it into 4 equal wedges. And we can actually save those for a little later. Right, so apples, you should actually be cooking your apples for anything between 10 to 15 minutes. That should actually give it enough time for those apples to really absorb the flavors of the cinnamon and the nutmeg. But one important thing to remember as well, remember once these come out of the heat, they are going to be quite a little soggy. So very important that you actually get something that will aid you in reducing all that juice. I particularly like to use a big sieve or a strainer. Right, so just proceed to continue cooking your apples. They should actually start to really become soft as you continue. They should actually start to really look a little more malleable and elastic. Right, so just another mix. You can allow those to continue for another maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Next up, we're basically now going to go straight into the process of assembling our pies. So very important that you have your containers ready to go. Second up, you're just going to, first of all, let's just change our board around. Now you're just going to proceed to start cutting your puff pastry. And I'm just going to give you a trick on how to really get that pastry to really fit into a bowl such as these. And it's a very, very simple technique. All you need to do is just roll out your puff pastry, and basically using the same container you'll be baking in, just place your container right over the pastry and just allow for about 1/2 centimeter space on the side, and proceed to just cut out a shape very similar to the one you have of your bowl. And of course, remember to leave that little bit of extra room on the side, because remember the pastry will actually shrink when it cooks. So you do actually want to give it that bit of extra room. Right, so we're actually going to start off with one. All I'm going to do now is just take out that piece. We're just going to set that over the countertop, and you can actually just chill the rest of your puff pastry in the fridge. Right, so your apples are now nicely cooked, nicely caramelized, and beautiful colors coming through. All you need to do now is just turn down the heat and move your apples into your strainer, allowing them to just drain off the excess liquid. So you should actually give those just a few minutes to do so. Basically just give that a bit of a shake. Basically just allow those to continue just draining. Next up, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my tongs, and we're just going to start to move that beautiful apple filling into the containers. Right, so give it quite a generous filling, and be sure to also press down the mixture. And remember, very importantly, you don't actually want to add the juices in there. They will actually make your pastry quite soggy. So do avoid to add, don't be tempted to add your juices in there. They are going to really compromise your dish. So be sure to actually give your apples quite a bit of time to cool off. I'm just going to fill that bowl to the very top. So simple as that. Just discard the rest. All you're left to do now is just using your tongs, just give your apples a nice firm press, making sure to tuck them to the center of the bowl as much as you possibly can, leaving only room for your pastry to go right around your dish. So very, very simple. Next up, you're just going to grab your puff pastry, and you're going to start off by just placing it right over the top. And you can actually use your fingers now to just tuck in the sides very simply with your fingers. So basically, remember, I'm not really pressing them in. I'm just using my finger to just really just put an indentation on the sides there, which is definitely going to also accelerate and give quite a beautiful presentation later on. I'm going to also cut any excess of that pastry that sits on the side. Then just continue to set your puff pastry there really nicely. Next up, very important to always remember to just prick a little hole at the top. This basically allows for all the excess steam in there that will build up to escape. Now all you're left to do is grab an egg, just break that in a bowl, just whip that really lightly, just enough to break your yolk. And using just some regular kitchen paper, you can actually work with this, or even use a pastry brush. I like to use this because they're very, very easy to work with. So next up, all you need to do now is proceed to egg wash your pastry, making sure to not put too much of it. and just really go gently right around the pastry, making sure to cover as much as possible with that beautiful egg wash. Remember, this will actually also aid in in giving a bit of a beautiful appearance. Once it's done, it will actually give you that beautiful golden color. Right, so simple as that. Your pastry is now ready to go straight into the oven. So very crucial that you work very, very fast at this stage. So I'm just going to place it on a baking tray, and we're just going to move that straight into the oven. But before we do so, something else I also like to share with you. I particularly like to always just give it a bit of some butter as well. So I'm just going to touch it on some softened butter, and I'm just going to rub that on the sides of the bowl, and that will also aid in allowing the bowl to it will actually help to stop the bowl from turning really dark after baking. And all you're left to do now is move that into the oven. So we set our oven at about 180 degrees to 200, and we're going to be cooking that for about 10 to 15 minutes, or probably even shorter, depending on how fast we can brown our pastry. So I'm just going to slide that into the oven, actually, just as it is. And we're just going to allow that to continue baking. And we're going to take also a short break, and when we do come back, I'll be able to show you what our apple pie looks like. And I'm also going to give you some very, very simple tips on how to finish and plate your dessert. So please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you can hear, the bell just went off and our dessert is now ready to come out of the oven. So we're just going to quickly move that to the counter right now. Just going to grab a plate to move that quickly. It's a bit hot. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, a nice, beautiful, shiny, well presented, very, very well looking pastry dish, as you can see. And that is as easy as it is to make your own apple pie. I will actually also inform you that you can actually be able now to find some ready-made puff pastry in your regular retail outlets, and which is the same one that I use today. You can actually be able also to just find your apples in many of the stores around you today. For most of the dried spices that we used on the dish as well, definitely works hand in hand. And also another reminder, you can also substitute butter for margarine for this dish, especially for those who are more health conscious and those of you who are definitely working on a very, very low budget. So I would basically just serve that as it is. I would probably serve that preferably maybe with a dessert wine or some ice cream on the side. And that, ladies and gentlemen, should be the best dessert for you this particular Valentine season. So from the studios and myself, I will wish you once again a very, 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 very happy Valentine season for you and your loved ones. For those of you who are planning to make something romantic for your loved one at home, you definitely have some beautiful tips that you can actually steal from our show today. You can actually also just try out your own different styles of just setting up your table, especially when presenting your meal. The options are definitely up to you. And just for the fact that it is a Valentine season, I would probably just serve that with a bit of strawberries on the side, just to give it a bit of a Valentine's cheer and just to really just commemorate the season. So from the studio and myself, thank you so much for tuning in. I will also remind you to check out our Facebook page, leave your comments, your inquiries, and any questions pertaining the show. And until the next episode, when we continue to make some lovely and interesting dishes on this very, very show, thank you for watching. My name is Chef Andy. Have a lovely Valentine season and see you soon.